Hi, my name is Steve Bang. This is where my family meets his story. I was born August 27th, 1960, to Priscilla and George, okay? I have 3 older siblings and 1 younger one. My father, that fathered me, was an abusive alcoholic. My mom used to defend herself with 4 kids. He would come home and beat her up. At this point, I was 3, but I still remember it. My other siblings would have been 11 and 10 and 5. We used to have to sneak out of the house in the middle of the night. This is back in 1963. And he would come in the front door and we would be going out the back door. She would wake us up, my mom, she would wake us up and say, "Come on, let's go." So that went on for, at 17 years. She was married to him for 17 years. She got a divorce when I was 3 and a half, a stay-at-home mom with 4 kids. Now, I don't know what her faith was, but I'd have to say it was pretty strong because she was a tough woman to keep going with 4 kids. So she got a job eventually we moved out of the house on 39th and Arbor in South Omaha. We moved out of the house, got an apartment. She got a job at Campbell's Soup from 12 o'clock at night till 6 in the morning. So when we'd get in, my older brother and sister would probably take care of us, and did take care of us. And then she'd go to work and then come home, and then we'd go to school and do whatever, and then she'd go to work. So that's how that started. Then she met my stepdad, okay, that worked at Campbell Soup. He had 3 kids from a previous marriage in Illinois, and then they got married and they had my little brother. So now he has 5 of somebody else's, or 4, and 1 of his. And then we moved to South Omaha, 22nd and Q. The stockyards were still there. They still had cattle down in the stockyards. Now, by that time, it was 1965. I went to elementary school down there. They went to work. It was just total chaos, basically. I'd go to school, walk like 8 blocks to school in 1st grade. My sister and I. In the snow, in the rain. They didn't do heat days. They didn't do blizzards. If you're walking, you're walking. All the way. And then I would just go play at one of my friends' house after school and not come home till 10 o'clock at night. And they'd be like, "Where's Steve?" So the whole that, and then boys club started down there, South Omaha Boys Club. So I would go to school and I'd go straight to the boys club, and that would be it. And, then as I started to get older and older, it'd run in the hills, you'd find somebody your age. And back then, the families wasn't a family. We were just surviving down in South Omaha. So then in the 70s, they said, we're getting out of South Omaha. We moved out to Keystone, 90th and Fort, and then started there. Went to high school at Northwest High, met a girl there that sat next to me. Her dad was a plumber, and went, and she said, "You want to meet my parents?" I said, "Okay." That was weird, because my parents were just like, get out of the house, go do something. As long as the cops ain't bringing you home or you're not hurt, all good, So I met her, went home, met her parents, and at 16, I started plumbing. He asked me, his name was Richard Sherman, Sherman Plumbing. He said, Steve, would you like to be a plumber? And it's like, I don't know. I guess. I don't know what a plumber does. So he took me on, and we dated for the whole 4 years, freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year, her and I. They were tickled when they found out that I went to church, because my mom was a big church. You're staying in church. He's going to help us. We got hard times, but it was all God that helped my mom, that helped us kids. We went to college after we graduated in '79. She went to Lincoln. I went to Milford, which was a little trade school out west. One school, it was, you go out there and it's like, there ain't nothing out there. So we broke up friendly, because when she's going to Lincoln and I'm going to basically the Army, it wouldn't work. And we were too good of friends, so we broke up friendly. And when I graduated, then she went back to Omaha. And my best friend at the time in high school and her, I used to pick him up and then go over and pick her up, and then we'd drive to school. So after, college, I introduced them, together, because I was talking to Chuck, and he said, yeah, I'm kind of lonely. I said, you should call Lisa. You can know each other, So he called her. They got together. I was their best man in their wedding. And, so my best friend marrying my best girlfriend. So that was God. And they got married and went on. And then the girl down the street in my neighborhood, her parents was basically the same as mine. Her mom had 5 kids by the time she was 23. He left, so she was there with 5 kids to raise. I was the 4th child born. She was the 4th child born. We were just, rugrats running around the creek and everything like that, And when I came back from college, she was 4 years younger than me. When I came back from college, she was running into her house in her cheerleading outfit. And I said, she grew up. And I said, hey, where's your brother? And she said, oh, he's not home. And at that time, I had a Harley motorcycle. And she said, hey, when are you going to give me a ride on that Harley? And I said, I can give you one right now. And so we started to date. Her name is Diane. She's my wife. We've been married 36 years this last July 7th. So we've been married for 36 years. Thank God she put up with me. We have 2 daughters and 5 grandchildren and 2 son-in-laws. So God has been good to our family. We've taken him for granted on a lot of things. And everything was good until September 7th of 20. My new son-in-law, Derek and Erica, his mom and dad bought a house out at West Bay Shores and said, hey, on Labor Day, why don't you guys come out? We're going to grill out. Well, that was all good. The day before, I bought a solar light for my flagpoles. And I said, before we go, I want to put these solar lights on. And we'll go. So in plumbing, we use things called scissor lift, which is a platform that raises up and drives. You can lift it up 30 feet and you can drive it. Well, we have that in our company, and I thought, well, I'm going to use that to put these solar lights on. Well, I couldn't drive it in the grass. So I thought, you know what? I'll put it here in the back of my pickup. It's stable. I pull up right next to the flagpole. I go up, we go up, do the one, John, then come down. We're going to go do another one.
And this is you and
Derek.
And Derek, right?
So Josh, I have two son-in-laws. Josh, I was going to use him, and he got on and started to go up. And he says, no. Take me down. No way, this is not good. I said, all right, get off here with a few choice words. And I said, Derek, you're up. Well, Derek was the newbie, so naturally he's going to be like, okay, I'll do it, Dad, I'll do it. So he got on, and we went up, and we're going up, and that was all. It literally took 6 seconds. We went up, the lift tipped it over. We were probably 30 feet in the air. The lift tipped over, and I heard him say, we're falling. And I said, make sure you roll when you hit the ground. So we hit the ground, and that was actually, it wasn't too bad because I'm sure I was knocked unconscious. And when I came to, it's like, what's going on? He was saying, are you okay? Are you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm okay. And then I stood up and fell down. So when I stood up and fell down, Derek said, we need to call 911. Well, his phone was in the truck, and he was in the grass next to me. So he had to crawl to the truck on his belly, and he probably didn't know, or he did know. He broke his ankle, and he broke his wrist, and he, fractured or jarred his ribs. So he had to crawl in pain to the truck, get up inside the truck, call my wife, which was at the house. We're at the barn. Our house and barn are a little bit further away, approximately 700 feet away from the house is the barn. Call her and Erica and explain that we had fallen. They were cooking chicken to take out to Derek's mom's house. Well, at that point, I passed out. And I could hear her and she called one of the neighbors, Larry, and said, come up here, Steve fallen. So when they got up there, they seen some blood. Okay. Well, they didn't know where the blood was coming from. And so they took off my pants, took off my boots, took off my pants so they could see what was going on. At that point, they called the neighbor across the street, Lisa, which is a hospice nurse. And she came over and said, well, they had already called Bennington Rescue, and said when she came over, she looked and said, call Lifeline right now. Because what I understand was the blood was so dark that it's just, and so much, that it was just coming out. And what ended up happening was, when I fell, I broke my pelvis, and when it broke, it shifted up and tore the front and the pelvic floor out from underneath my legs. And when it tore, it must have ripped the main artery running down my right leg. And the bone punctured my right underneath your butt cheek, punctured that. And the blood is coming out basically my butt cheek from my main artery, pumping the blood out. So they called Lifeline. Lifeline was summons. It flew past our house 3 times. They couldn't get the coordinates. So it flew past and then came back, flew past the other way, came back, flew past again. And finally they said, get him in the squad, we gotta go. Well, when they were loading me up in the rescue squad, Lifeline came back and took me to the med center. Now, when you cut that main artery, the doctors told me that is the widowmaker. It's the 2-minute artery. In 2 minutes, you're going to be out of gas. So when I got to the med center, they gave me 22 pints of blood. They cut me right above the pubic line to get in there. So when they cut you, they're in a hurry. They don't care. I'm sure when they cut me, they opened me up so they could see in there and get in there to the right side of my hip, pelvic, and main artery. They cauterized the main artery and several blood vessels, several other veins in there to get it to stop. They had to put me into what they call a girdle and tighten everything down, because as soon as they let the girdle go, I'd start bleeding. The muscles and everything that was tore would just start to bleed. So they put me in the girdle. And they kept me in the girdle for, probably 3 or 4 days. They didn't fix my broken pelvis yet. They had to put me into traction to pull this leg, my right leg, back down. So, sedated for a week. So I was going up the lift, 6 seconds, it falls, I'm unconscious for 2 weeks. The only thing that I remember was going up, we're falling, trying to stand, and then hear people say, "Stay with us, Steve, stay with us, Steve." And before they loaded me on the helicopter, I remember saying, before I passed out, I remember consciously saying, "Dear Lord, forgive my sins." So, this goes to my mom. All that prayer and forcing me when I was a teenager to go to church, and the grace of God, it stuck with me that ask for forgiveness, because I don't know. So, woke up 2 weeks later in the intensive care with two probably 23, 24-year-old girls next to me. And as I wake up, I'm like, "What's going on?" And they're like, "Steve, you had an accident." And I remember trying to roll over, but in so much pain. Well, when they cut you at the pelvic line and you're bleeding eternally, all the blood ran to my scrotum. And that thing swelled up like a cantaloupe. And it was so tender that if you would blow on it, it would send me to tears. I couldn't lay on my back very long. I couldn't lay on my side because of the size and the pressure of it. I couldn't lay on my right side at all because I got a broken pelvis and ribs. So I had 3 ribs on the right side, 2 ribs on the left side, and 3 vertebrae compressed. I had a broken pelvis. I tore the artery. All the muscles in your pelvic floor, which is in your crotch area, was tore. My leg, I cut the sciatic nerve running down the backside of my leg, which took out all the lift to my foot, so I can't really use that correctly. I woke up there and like, "What's going on?" They told me. I looked. My scrotum was swelling so much that they had to put ointment on it because they wouldn't drain it because it was sealed, okay? And then they didn't want to puncture it to introduce any germs from a drain or anything. So it was basically in there. So when that happens, you have to absorb all that blood back into your system and back out. Now, when you get bruised, the blood is trapped in your muscle. But as you start to use the muscle moves and pushes it out. I could not move anything, so it wasn't active. Yeah, it was stuck. I was just there, and it was not good. 2 weeks there, they shipped me to Madonna. Well, I'm not ready to go to Madonna, in my opinion, after I see now. But they shipped me to Madonna, and I laid there for a month. Now, they had me on oxycodone, which helped, you know. So after 2 weeks, COVID hit. Nobody could come see me except my wife. My son-in-law was at Madonna too. His wrist, they had to put pins in his wrist and pins in his ankle. My daughter was, at that time, 6 months pregnant. He just got a new job, and he was in Madonna with me. Erica, she would go see him, and Diane would come see me, only from like 3 to 6. It was only visiting hours, and only one person. So by the time Diane would come see me, I would already be struggled throughout the day to do what I needed to do, and I would be on my oxycodone and say, I feel good, hon. How are you? And she's like, oh, you're going to make it. You're going to be right back to work. I said, yep, we're going to be right back. I'll be out of here in a month. Well, what she didn't know was to get out of get out of bed and to go pee or poop or shower or anything, they had to hoist me out, which entails putting a back brace on. I had to have a back brace on anytime I was 30 degrees. If I was sitting watching TV, they had to put a back brace on. If I had to get up to go to the bathroom, they had to put a back brace on. I could not put any weight on any of my legs at this time. So they had to hoist me up, which takes a canvas blanket, and they stick it underneath you, and they hook 4 points and hoist you up like this, like a cow, you know, up and over and down on the commode or down in the wheelchair and back up out of there and back in and out. That's how for a month. And it's like, oh my gosh. So we did that. And then after about 2 weeks there, they wanted me to start to use my arms to start moving again, which is good and bad. So they'd hoist me into the wheelchair. I'd have to go around the hallways in moving myself to get the upper body strength going again. And I did that and pushed myself. And after a month, they said, you're ready to go home. Which I was ready to go home anyway, but not really physically to go home. When we got home, that's when it all started. My wife, Diane, became the full-time nurse. We put a hospital bed in my front room, living room, looking out the window. At that time, I could put weight on one leg. I could only lay on my left side or my back. So we fixed the bed so I could look out the window. I watched 2 seasons. 2 seasons, not TV seasons. I watched it snow. I watched the trees and the flowers bud. I watched it fall. I watched the leaves fall. I watched the snow come. I watched them green up. I watched them come and go twice looking out the window. Now, I am so glad that it was only twice. I will ask the Lord to forgive me for my ignorance of my selfishness, because 2 years watching it, there are people that watch it for entire lives. And all this has taught me that I am very blessed to the point where, you know, I just take it for granted. Being an active man on an acreage, there's always something to do. I tell people, and I watch bull riders. My bull was actually a scissor lift. In 6 seconds, my life went from, let's get it done, let's go have fun, to stop, Steve. You're not going anywhere. So, looking out the window, we put some bird feeders out there, and I prayed that I could either be mad at God or cling to Him. And I didn't want to be one of those Christians that was pouty, mad, and then I am where I am today, walking around. Okay? I didn't want to sell Him out like I've done before. I've sold Him out many times for lots of stuff. But to be stopped that abruptly for I didn't know how long. So when I wasn't moving and I'm stopped, a lot of things rush into my head. And the devil has plenty to do with me there. Number one, an acreage. Number two, I was the breadwinner for the family, well, my wife and I, to take care of her, whatever she needs me to do, okay? Now I'm stopped, and I'm laying in bed, looking out the window, thinking, oh my gosh. I prayed that He would change my heart and mind so I could be content where I was. So if this is where I am, please help me, to be there, okay? I cried. We cried. She cried. We got to the point where she would be up and I would be down, or I would be up and she would be down. Now, when I say up and down, it wasn't very too up, but it was way down. So our ups would be just a little bit better than me, So she would be crying or something, and I'd say, hey, come on, pull it together. We got this. The Lord's going to help us. And then when I would be crying, she'd say, come on, you're going to be just fine. Get going. It's very, it's easy for somebody to say, it'll be all right. I used to be one of them persons that say, oh, don't worry about it. God will help you. That is the wrong thing to say. We know that God's going to help you, okay? Nothing happens without passing through Him. But you can't, you can tell me that all day long when I was laying there. And it'd be like, all right, well, let's get it going here, God. Let's, and it's just one of those things where it was depression. It was scared. I think it was more scared than depressed. But then that falls in on it when you can't move, when you got people, helping you. It was just so scary. And I chose, it's like, you know what? I'm going to pray. I'm going to use the time that I'm here to read some scripture. I'm not just going to do nothing. I'm going to do what I can because, I want a relationship with my Lord to help me. And it's just, I tell people that I meet, electricians and everybody, I say, you know what? If you called me, people that I went to high school with, that I haven't talked to in 20 years, call and say, hey, Steve, this is Mike. I got some plumbing problems. It's like, yeah, Mike who? And he's like, I went to school with you, remember? It's like, Mike, I don't have a relationship with you. Not that I don't like you, but I don't have a relationship with you, so I'm not going to jump to come and help you. Plumbing. And I don't want that with God. I want to make sure that I am that fly or that gnat in His ear to the point where He's like, please, will someone go down there and help Steve get fixed up so I don't have to hear him talking to me anymore. Because I was constant, and I am constant now. And it's like, but for a different purpose. There, it was for help. Now, it's for thank yous. Because the blessings just to be able to see, just to be able to hear, smell. When COVID came in, my wife's Italian. She lost her taste and smell. You can't have an Italian woman that cooks all the time that can't taste and smell. That's like me laying in bed, you know? It's like a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and she follows no directions, and it tastes great. So the blessings, you know, they say there's blessings in everything. You just got to find them. Now, I heard that when I was laying in bed, and it's like blessings. Exactly. But there was clean sheets. You know, one time I seen a tree frog crawl across my window. I was so glad because I was watching birds all day long and a tree frog crawled across it. It was like, Lord, thank you for something different. Thank you. And, you know, whether it was a blessing to me at that point to be able to walk. When I drop stuff now and have to pick it up, it's like, thank you, Lord. I can bend down, pick that up, you know, because when you can't bend over, you wish you could. When you can't tie your shoes, you wish you could. Well, one even more passed over, going to the bathroom by yourself. I had a catheter in for a month and a half because, you know, of the stitches and everything. And they didn't know if my bladder was going to work when they pulled it out because it sat dormant for a month and a half. Okay, so they're like, you might be able to use it again, you might not. Oh, there you go, another load on my mind. Okay, and you know, when you tear your pelvic floor, that goes right up to your rectum and all down through their nerves. You don't know how many nerves are connected to bowel movements and urinating and stuff like that. You talk about scary, Lord. So I used to pray. I want to be able to take a shower by myself because my wife was bathing me in bed in a bucket. And it's warm water, but it ain't like having a shower run on your muscles at the end of the day. So I'd like to be able to take a shower and go to the bathroom by myself. My wife was wiping my butt in the front room, you know, and it's like, all right, whatever. Thank you, Lord. At least it's, you know, I'm here. At least it's my wife, you know. So the blessings, the weight, the sadness, you know, we had a couple of giggles. My happiness went away. I lost my happiness. Now that could be depression. I don't know. I could have been depressed years ago as I'm just working, going through everyday life and didn't know I was depressed, you know. It's just part of life. It's just like, get up, go to work, fix this, do that, go get the kids, do this, do that, you know. And at the end of the day, it's just a circle, a routine. And it's like, are you depressed, Steve? It's like, I don't know if I'm depressed or not. It's just life, you know. So at that point, you know, when you didn't find any happiness or joy, you know, in that year and a half, it was like, you know what, nothing really makes me happy anymore, you know. So it was pretty hectic, and you know, my wife, you know, had to quit her job. She was not sleeping because of me, you know. Every 4 hours to get up and put a back brace on so I could go to the bathroom. She's up, she's not sleeping, so she's going down, and you know, she's worried about everything like I'm worried about, but she's worried about if I'm going to get better because of the loved one. And so she was getting depressed, or you know, we were both going down, and we were, you know, trying to keep each other from, you know, meltdown or whatever. I don't know how close we were. Maybe we were there. Maybe we were close. Maybe the Holy Spirit said, you're close, but we're not going to let you, you know, finally melt down to the point where you're not going to try anymore. Every day was a fight. Every day was, get up, let's go. All right, let's do it. So that was the mental part. And then, you know, the wound The wound on my leg where I bled out was about, 6 inches long and big as a pencil, a puncture or something. They had to take gauze and pack gauze, 3 feet of gauze, and stick it in. So when you have a puncture that goes in, rather than a cut, if it closes on the end of the puncture, it traps bacteria in there. A cut will grow together. So they had to pack the gauze in there to wick out the drainage as it started to heal. Well, one morning we woke up and the gauze had got stuck in there. It was the same day that we were supposed to go down and get checked out from my orthopedic surgeon, Matt Marmino, at Nebraska Medicine. So we go down, he looks at it, he's like, yeah, the pins are still there, because there's 2 pins holding my pelvis together, and I'm starting PT work, walking on both legs. And when we were down there, we asked him, we said, hey, the gauze went up, can you pull it out? And he said, I can look at it to see if I can get some tweezers to pull it out. Well, he looked around, it's not his area, they couldn't find it, so he made an appointment the same day at trauma. It was at 2 o'clock. I've been down there since 8 o'clock with a back brace on, with a wound on my right leg, my ribs, my vertebrae, everything is killing me. I sat there from 8 to 2. They got me in. They said we're going to do emergency surgery. I went straight from there to the ER. No one could come in. My wife dropped me off at the door at the med center. They said, nope, just him. They wheeled me into a room. I sat from there till 8 o'clock at night. Then they took me up to prep and got me ready, and then went and removed the gauze that had gotten sucked up in there. They opened up a wound that's as big as a pencil. They opened it up this much to get rid of all the bacteria and all the meat, which is cutting butt cheek muscle and all that. And then they give me what they call a wound vac. Now, a wound vac, what they do with that is they take tape and they tape it around the wound. Then they put a piece of plastic on top of that, and then they tape it again and stick a vacuum in there so it sucks. It's like vacuuming meat at the butcher. But what they do is they want, if this is the wound this long, they stick styrofoam in there, foam that's porous, and it sucks the juice out this way and collapses it here, but it won't let it grow here. 9 months. I had to have that done twice a week. Nurses came out to the house, repacked it, put the vacuum on. It ran 24 hours a day for 9 months. It was a little vac about the big as a lunchbox. Battery operated, sat right here. For 9 months, and it went down and sucked it together like this all the way out till it grows. And they would test it with a Q-tip to see if it's growing. Good thing is, it's like today's today, I get to go down and get rid of my wound vac. We go down, we go in, go to the wound vac. They're like, yep, it's all good, Steve, it's healed, be careful. I get to go down and get cleared for my pelvis. When we went down to get cleared for my pelvis, they took the x-rays and they put it on the screen, and before the doctor came in, I seen it, that the pins, the pelvis had broke loose and the pins had shifted. So when the doctor came in, he said, how you doing today, Steve? I said, well, I was doing good until I seen that. And he looked over at it and he says, oh yeah, that don't look good. because when it shifted, my pelvis shifted up a 1/4 inch. Now by this time, we're almost a year, 9 months to a year. And Diane said, well, what are we going to do? And he said, I don't know. And Diane said, what do you mean you don't know? He's like, I don't know. We've never had one of these at the med center. And I said, I don't want to be the guinea pig. And he's like, you might have to go to Mayo Clinic. I don't know. That was on a Thursday. I cried. We cried. I cried on the way home. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. He said, come back down. We'll take an MRI and see what kind of blood flow and stuff we have there. I prayed, dear Lord, please stir Matt's heart to talk to other doctors, to figure out what he can do. We went back down there. He said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to take some bone marrow out of your femur, and we're going to squirt it in between the crack, and we're going to screw you back together again. And we hope that works. Well, at that point, I said, thank you, Lord, that you stirred his heart, and I don't have to go to the Mayo Clinic, because we were scared to death. How do we get to the Mayo Clinic? After a surgery, I'm going to drive 8 hours home. How are we going to get? Are we going to have to rent an RV? Who's going to go with us? The kids, my daughter's pregnant, and it's just like that. So many people out there today have, just the pressure and the whirlwind of, oh my gosh, what is going to happen? So 2 weeks later, he did the surgery. He said, I'll see you in 4 weeks. I went back in 4 weeks. No growth. He said, still, it doesn't look, it ain't doing nothing. See you in 4 more weeks. Went back in 4 more weeks. He said, it's starting to turn white at the bottom. He said, I'll see you in 4 more weeks. I went back in 4 more weeks. He said, it's starting to look good in the middle. I'll see you in 4 more weeks. 4 more weeks. He's looked at it. He says, yep, it's all white. Go live your life, Steve. Go live my life. I was like, oh my gosh. I'm in a wheelchair. I haven't moved for 2 years about. All the muscles and everything is like stiff. My back is grown together. My legs are weak. I couldn't even hold the coffee pot when I came home. I couldn't pour a gallon of milk. It was just like, oh my gosh. He said, I'm going to start you in aquatherapy. When I got in the pool, it was so good because the waters is like anti-gravity, You just float and it's like, oh, nice. The first time I got out of the pool, the weight of my swimming suit felt like 200 pounds. It was like, oh my gosh, I can't even move. I was laughing. It was like, you got to be kidding me. The gravitation is pulling me like somebody was sitting on me. It was like, oh my gosh, what the heck? And started to move around and started walking. And it's the muscle spasm, that would occur like on my lower back when I was getting back into bed was so intense that I was holding on to Diane and I didn't know whether to stand up or lay down or it was like, I hope this doesn't happen forever. It was, so painful. So a lot of pain. And it was just like, pray, pray, pray. So we had on disability and, it was just so much. Sell the house, have the kids move in with us to take care of us. And there's so much that I've learned and felt. Now I know how, I just use elderly people where, they don't want to get rid of their house and, they don't want their kids to move in with them and take care of them, or am I going to be a burden? And that's what I was. And I would pray that just change my heart, Lord. Give me the strength and help me to know that you are in control, because I know God is in control. But let God be in control of somebody else. Not me. I just want to be, I want him to control me a little bit, but I didn't want he put both arms on me and said, Steve, I need your attention. And it took 2 years for him to get it. And when it starts to wander now, I try and pull it back with prayer and say, you know what, Lord, come on, man, help me. Because it's still a struggle, and it always will be. And I prayed, a couple of good prayers was, one of them that I'd really like to hold him to, is that the trial that I went through, and the suffering and the emotion that I went through, please let that be the biggest trial that my family has to go through. My daughters, my grandchildren, my wife, and my son-in-laws. I pray that this is going to be the worst that we'll ever have to experience. The broken arms, the coffin, the tonsils, the cavities, that's normal. But this here, my daughters used to sit outside when COVID was there in the snow, drinking coffee just to talk to me. And it was just crazy. When you have your pregnant, 6-7 month pregnant daughter sitting outside to see your dad, it's like, dude, I was like, you know what? I was so close to going to heaven. And during some of those, laying there looking outside, and for a year and a half, it would have been like, Lord, I was there. It was quick, it was fast, it was painless. It was like, boom. It was like, sweet. But then he's like, no, you're not done, Steve. You're not done. And, there's other things that happen, catheter, my daughter had to catheter. Who wants their 20, 30-year-old daughter cathering them? You know what I mean? And who wants their neighbor, helping me? So Lisa, which is the neighbor across the street from us, we've only lived there for about, maybe 4 years. And we've only waved. When you get new neighbors, you're like, hi, neighbor. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Steve. Not really a relationship. Always talk to them when we seen them. But when Diane called her to come over because I had fallen, and she came over, she had to get out of her neighbor situation and into her profession situation immediately. And thank the Lord that she was there. She and Erica, and my youngest. So Diane, which is a math teacher by trade, Erica's a hairstylist. Liz, my oldest, is a school teacher also. Diane couldn't when we came home, Diane couldn't pack the gauze in the wound. She's like, I can't do that. Liz, my oldest daughter, said, Dad, I'll do that for you. Stepped up and came over and packed the gauze. Every day you had to change it and pack it in. And this stuff is 3 feet long, 1/4 inch wide, and paper thin. And you stick it in and stick it in. And she would do that. And it's like, I said, okay, well, at least the Lord, I got one there. Then, after they pulled my catheter, I would have to be cath to get my bladder emptied because the muscles weren't used to contracting and stuff. Well, I would hope that my wife could help me, but she couldn't because she's like, I can't do that either. Erica, my youngest daughter, said, "Dad, I will do that." Now, in my 60 years, had never been cath. So now it's something new because, the catheter is like a foot long, and they go right up your hole there, and it's like to your bladder, and it's like, whoa. And then my daughter doing it, and it's like, okay, well, here we go. I mean, I wipe their butts. I guess it's payback, you know what I mean? I guess they owe me, So it's like, I did yours, you're going to do mine. Sorry, So and she had to do, and Liz had to do it for weeks, packing it, and Erica had to do it 2 or 3 times before my bladder started to work. Then the impaction came, okay? Oxycodone, not moving, protein. I couldn't poop 3 times. So the first time we had to call our standby, Lisa, the nurse again, and her, my wife, and my sister was in the living room, and, there I am with a back brace on, standing on a walker, trying to poop in the front room, and it ain't working. So Lisa said, "You know what, Steve? I can remove it." And I looked at her like, "Remove it? What do you mean?" She's like, "Yeah, I can remove it for you." And it's like, now, talk about Job. I know what Job felt like a little bit. Here I am, macho man, just 2 years ago, Now I'm to the, naked and afraid in my living room getting bowel movement removed. Now the first time it was like, whew, that was bad. I'm glad that's done. Then the devil wasn't done a second time. And I was praying. He's like, "Well, Lord, I'll get him again." 3 times that she had to come over. And by that time, I was like, what the heck? I can't live like this. So we had to go to the doctor so Diane could learn how to do it. I mean, if I got to have it done, at least my wife can do it. I'm running out of friendship with Lisa across the street. She's like, "Hey, we're going to have to move, Steve, because you keep bothering me, And, it was just, so me and Lisa have a relationship that it's just like, I got her back whenever she needs me. So she dropped her key fob in the toilet without knowing it and flushed it. So I went over there. I had to pull her toilet, and in the inside of the toilet, the key fob was stuck there. So I got her key fob out, and those key fobs can range from $300 to $800, I'm told. And I said, I got it out, cleaned it up, and I took it to her, and I said, "Lise, I got your key fob." I said, "We're even on you helping me?" And she's like, "No, Steve, we'll never be even. You owe me. Your A is mine, You are mine, brother. You are mine. So don't even think that we're even." And so we laugh, and, I tell you what, when she came, Erica, Liz, Diane, Lisa, Josh, my son-in-law, pushed the snow and mowed. And he stepped up because I'm down. He had to come be the man. I mean, at that time, I think he was only 27, And Derek, he was just getting better. And then they had their little girl, Raylan. And, I'm so glad that I took the brunt, because I would not want my son-in-law to be where I was with a newborn and a new wife. And, I'm sorry that, he broke his wrist and his ankle. And I think today he's still using that as a little excuse, trying to get out of some stuff, But I'm on to him. It's like, suck it up, buddy. You should have been me. I'm doing it. So maybe I said, I know what you mean, or I've been there. No, I know what you mean. I think the words is like if somebody says, yeah, I did this. It's like, oh, yeah, I know what you mean. I think I might have said that too many times to too many people because I've experienced the bowel movement, the catheter, the drop foot, the broken ankle, the ribs, the naked in front of people that, you wouldn't be naked in front of, young girls looking at me. And, it's like, dude, whoa. And it's just like, you know what?
In the mental.
Yeah.
The mental
Yeah.
depression.
I was just like, so there's nothing anymore, before you go to the doctor, you're kind of like, get the robe on. Now it's like, what do you need? Well, we got to do this. It's like, let's do it. I mean, it ain't the first naked body you've seen. Now, it might be the best looking one that you've seen, but, let's just get this job done and I can get out of here and you can move on. And my thanks to the Lord for firemen, police, doctors, nurses, the cleaning staff, the cooking staff at the hospitals, the maintenance men. There's so much stuff like being in the plumbing field, okay? When a homeowner or a restaurant owner does the restaurant, all of our work, the electricians and the carpenters and stuff like that, that goes into the walls that you don't see. But you see the finished product, the shower, and you turn on the water and it's there. But it has to get there for you to enjoy it. Okay, the hospital, the cleaning the rooms, the cooking of the food, the making sure that the driveways and stuff are cleaned when you come in, the electrician, the lights and everything for the doctors, and the people that clean all the utensils for the doctors to use and clean up, and the nurses that are watching the doctors to make sure that they didn't leave a rag in me, that happens. And there's so many other people that get the recognition, the doctors, but they have responsibilities that they have to know. But my thanks goes to the little person that, are cleaning, the towels and the bed pans and stuff like that, because it all takes a group. It all takes everybody. Before, okay, I knew God. I know what to do. I know what not to do. Okay? I know. I loved drinking some beer and BSing with my buddies, but it would get carried away. My wife would be, making dinner, and it'd be like, all right, one more, and then I got to go. And it's like, so my God is way closer now than what he was before the fall. I pray constantly. I talk to him, say, if I don't understand something, show me. I'm still having trouble seeing when he's trying to show me something. It's like, come on, man, where you at? Show me, tell me what, talk to me. I wish we could hear him like you can hear me, But I heard my mom and I heard my dad and I hear pastor, and they tell me, don't do this, don't do this. I heard them, but I did it anyway, or whatever. You know what I mean? So I don't know if the verbal voice is actually going to change me, but I pray that, I can get closer to him and I can feel him better. And when I stop and really think where I was, where I could have been, I need my brain and my heart to say, you know what, Steve, if you can't see the miracle that God did for you by putting the doctors, by putting first your Derek to call the nurse across the street, the volunteer fire department, the helicopter pilots, the doctors, the trauma team, which they had their hands full. I bet when I rolled in there, I'd like to talk to them today. When I rolled in there, they're probably like, oh, we got a 10 here. They told Diane, if he makes it this 1 hour, he might have a chance. He is very, 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 very bad. And there's some stuff that Diane knows that they told her that she hasn't told me, which now it does. I mean, it'd be like, whoa, I was there. Oh, I did that. I remember pulling the trach tube out, waking up, and they're like, hey, you pull the trach tube out. Yeah. And it's like, so she is kind of traumatized by it, I would be if my wife did something like that, or my kids. So, when I look at when I'm at church and I see all these little kids running around, it almost breaks my heart. It's because I'm so happy. It's just like, oh, look how precious that is. You know what I mean? It's just, life is precious. I'm just kind of sad sometimes because of the sin that's in the world. Not even the sin that somebody does to other people, just the sin, cancer and, paralyzation and, born this way or, it's like that. And it's just like, I wish we could all just be, like we're going to be in heaven, It's tough down here. And being responsible is hard, but it's not impossible. And, I try and keep a joyful heart. So my kids are, happy. I had to fake a lot. So everybody would think that, I'm on the mends, and it'd be just like, yeah, I'm really not. But I can't let you see that because I don't want my sorrow to bring you down. I want you to be happy when you see your grandchild. Just because I'm in pain and, it's not making me happy. That's just the way it is. You know what I mean? But I don't want to make you not happy. So there was a lot. I don't know how much I kept. I don't know how much I can recall on my feelings. You know what I mean? I know that I wouldn't want to do it again. I'm glad to be alive. My grandkids, their work, but everything that's good. And it's like, I love my church. I love my pastor. I love my music director. It's joy to go there. I have my 2 sisters go there. My daughters go there. My grandchildren go there. What better blessing is that to see that my kids, my son-in-laws, my wife, my brothers and sisters, my nieces and nephews are there. And, if a person took that for granted without knowing, and I know there's a lot of people out there that don't go to church and don't have that, but if you look, if a godly person, like a pastor, could look and say, Steve, you don't even know how blessed you are that all your chickens are here. You know what I mean? I don't even know how blessed I am. I just take it for granted because that's the way I was. Maybe my mom saw it different when she had all her kids in Sunday school and church. When we grow up and we're still coming to church, it's one thing when they're small and you take them to church, but when they're grown up adults and they choose to come back, that is a blessing. And I told a friend of mine, I said, look, he's got cancer. And he went through it, and his wife was 7 months pregnant and, stage 4 colon cancer. And some of it spread to his liver. Well, they went in, and she was 7 months pregnant, and he's going in for surgery for that. And he made it through. and I'm going to bring him, and he's going to talk to you. And, you know, it's changed him, and it's just unexplainable. And I don't see other people's problems
Sure.
like Pastor would and a doctor, okay? They're involved in that, you know what I mean? So, you know, unless someone came up or my daughters or something have a problem, then I know what they're going through. But there's so many people out there that are having stuff that, you know what I mean, needs, hang in there.